Hello and welcome back to All About Community. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris. I am your host, and my guest is Attorney John Burris, noted civil rights attorney right here in the city of Oakland. John, you have given an exceptional explanation of the rioters case, and now let's get to what happened early this year in February of 2023, when I believe the federal monitor had recommended certain things, and then certain actions were taken by a certain mayor here in the city of Oakland, which caused a lot of turmoil, unnecessarily, I should put it.
Well, first off, let me just say the police chief got a very raw deal here. That there was an investigation that was being conducted and ordered by the monitor that was raising questions about whether the chief himself had participated in a cover-up about some misconduct that other officers had engaged in. Well, ultimately, the facts were he had not participated in that, but notwithstanding that, the mayor put him on leave.
So why did she do that?
She put that on leave in large measure because I believe the monitor told her that given that these allegations are outstanding, that he really should be on leave while the investigation took place. And that was, I would say that there's some validity to that. I mean, you could say that there's an investigation taking place. But once the investigation was determined that he had not engaged in this conduct, then he should have been reinstated. The problem is that the report that was written by the investigation was so one-sided, and it leaped to conclusions with...
It was done by a law firm
by a San Francisco law firm that does a lot of business with the city. But they reached conclusions that were so without facts. And one of them, which was that he was a derelict in his duties. Well, that's pretty bad for a police chief to be not. But there wasn't any facts to support that. And I say that after critical review of the facts, but if the facts were there, I would say, hey, man, I'm sorry. Now, but that wasn't the ultimate issue, I think, that led to his demise. What happened is that once he was placed on leave, the investigation was kind of ongoing. It was being reviewed by me and others. The police chief then made statements that was highly critical of the monitor. And those statements were essentially that the monitor was out to get him, to keep this going so he can continue to make money as a monitor.
Well, my own personal belief is I believe that. Go ahead.
True or not? True or not? Okay. True or not? The problem on it is you got to work with the monitor.
Right.
Okay? The monitor has the inroad, has the confidence of the judge. Mm-hmm. The judge is the one who's going to decide whether or not we're going to get off at all out from under this whole monitoring event. And so, being critical of the monitor was not a very smart thing to do. And I must tell you, I said to the chief, I said, be careful what you say here. Now, should he have been terminated? No, in my view, not based upon the facts. And whatever had been said, that could have been worked out. But in any event, the mayor had decided that because of his statements he had made, she no longer trusted him, and therefore she wanted to move in a different direction. The problem I saw with all this is that the chief was doing a very good job in getting us very close to ultimately becoming in total compliance. Now, I will say this. With police, they're going to always do things. There's always going to be a problem. It's never going to be perfect. During the course of the time that I've been involved in this case, aside from my normal work, I've been involved in 3 other major scandals. You know, we had a strip search scandal where they strip searched people. They had the sex scandal with the young teenage girl. We had a place where informants were causing people to be charged. We had Asian women who were being sexually assaulted. So these are all things that were occurring. They were not sanctioned by the police department. This is just what officers can do. And so the question always has been, do you have something in place that when misconduct occurs, the officers can be assured that they will be accountable for it, and there's a consistency of discipline taking place? The consistency of discipline, to me, has always been a big issue. And even though you might not have thought that I'd be involved in that, but what that really meant to me is that African-American officers were being disciplined at a higher rate than non-African-American officers. Now, I know this because the officers who represent the police officers in the administration hearings said to me, John Burris, man, you need to take a look at this. because what we see is African American officers are being disciplined for very minor events sometimes and often terminated, but not when white officers do the same thing. So that became another issue that I was very much concerned about. These issues have not resolved themselves, although albeit we're very close, and could have been done from this if we hadn't had this last major scandal that occurred when these officers covered up for each other, Asian officers, and the chief gets fired. This thing would have been over by now if the chief had not been terminated.
And the hearing officer's report, all 54 pages I read, written by a former California Court of Appeals judge,
right,
exonerated him on all charges.
And was exactly what I had told the mayor and others at the beginning. There are no facts here to support any misconduct on the part of the chief. And so I was a little surprised at the dismissiveness of the report by the mayor. She gave little credit, if any, to the fact that he had been exonerated. And then she has now said, and taken a position, that I didn't dismiss him based upon for cause, that I just thought it was time to go in a different direction. Clearly she could do that. She could say, look, it's time for us to change police chiefs. And I will say, I told the chief early, well before any of this happened, I said, look, man, when the new mayor comes in, whoever that is, they generally have a right to pick their own police chief, and that's probably going to happen here. Right. So if I was to suggest to you, is you try to get whatever you're going to get done now before it's too late. And which turned out that even though it happened the way it did happen, it's not surprising that ultimately he was left out.
And we're going to have to go to break. Don't touch that remote. We will be right back with All About Community. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris. I am your host, and my guest is Attorney John Burris. We will be right back.